Hi, everyone. Today I'm going to talk about two separate concepts that are kind of linked. The first one is perception of others, how we perceive others, and the other one is identity completion, the way that we complete our perception of our identity. Okay. And they're kind of linked, and I will show you that in a moment. But first, I would like to just tell you that an overview. This is going to be about self and tribe, the nuance between self and tribe. It's going to be a little bit more nuanced, kind of new information that I figured out, and I really encourage you to check out another series because this is not going to be a blast. I'm not going to leave you with advice, right? I'm not going to give you anything to make your life better or whatever. But if you want to see an example of how I can blast, I'm going to peacock right here. Check out this cognitive balance series. The link is in the description. It's intended to be an intro series, but it's my personal best. I'm really happy with it. I'm really proud, and I'm boasting, and I'm telling you how amazing I am with my NF blast there. So yeah, one time in my life I've succeeded. So the question is, how do we see individuals? Okay. It's the first question for the first concept, our perception of others. Okay. Now you'll notice that I'm not asking how should we see individuals, right? Because I'm not going to give advice, how should we be seeing people, but how do we see people, right? And maybe we can get a better picture of them if we understand that. Okay. And really, like I said, this isn't going to be blast. This is going to be a mechanics video. How do we see them? Not how should we, not advice. Okay. So here we have this individual that we're looking at, and how are we going to perceive him, right? Okay, well, we can look at him from the tribe perspective. Okay, how does the tribe see him? That's not our personal perspective. It's the tribe, the general collective unconscious of this person, right? So first of all, the tribe is going to be looking at how they compare on the spectrum, right? So how do they compare in intelligence? How do they compare in value, right? Is this a prick that nobody likes, but he's really good at what he does? Or is this this really amazing, great guy? He's kind of useless, but everybody loves him, and he brings a lot of light and joy to everybody, right? So, what spectrum is he on? Where is he on that spectrum, right? How are we seeing that spectrum? That's the tribe's perspective. And then the other tribe perspective is, what is their perception of him? What is their actual opinion of that person, right? Is it based on the spectrum and when they fit it in the spectrum, or is it based on a decision they made, right? Because this is objective. This is not based on decision. This is just basically where they are on that spectrum. This is where they are based on their decision, right? Or based on the amalgamation of their decisions, right? What's built up over time, right? And yes, there is a link between the two. But this one is circled here because this is what me personally, I am not looking at or interested in, right? My default wiring is telling me the tribe is stupid. Their perceptions are stupid. How many times in history has the tribe got it wrong, right? But I'm not looking at what the tribe has right. And yeah, there is something to the tribe, and there I've discovered that the tribe's perception is actually valuable. And if you want to stick around for the second part, explain why it's actually seeing something real, why it is actually valuable. Okay. Now there's the self perspective. How do we see, or how do we see ourselves, first of all, but how do we see an individual? How do they see themselves? Okay. And so for the self perspective in us, it's primarily focused on how do we see ourselves, right? It's also focused on how do we, right, as a DI, as an individual identity, perceive them. How are they perceived by us? And I purposefully have here that, how we perceive ourselves is flawed, and how we perceive them is also flawed. This is the Wizard of Oz. There's a wizard behind the curtain. We're only seeing what the wizard is displaying, right? So how do we see them? Okay. And then the real question is, how do they see themselves, right? So how do we see them really boils to here. This is how we see the individual on an individual level, right? But how they see themselves is something that kind of gets overlooked, especially if you're tribe above self. Now, I don't mean to trigger all the tribe above selves, but the reason why they're not paying attention to how this person sees themselves is really because the tribe as a whole, the tribe and how the person is comparing, they're not really looking at how the person perceives themselves. They're looking at how they objectively come off, right? And so, how does the person see themselves? Well, you'll basically, if you're not aware of the depth of your own self, then how can you be aware that that others have depth at all, right? And so, I have some stories about this, some sensory stories proving that this is really what's happening. But really, the deeper you go in on yourself, the more you realize that others have depth. Okay, and so then how you perceive them changes, right? You might see them based on not only what they're presenting to you, but on how they perceive themselves, right? Now, what is reality? Okay, what's really happening? That's the question. Because we see this person. Okay, the tribe has an opinion of them, right? They have an opinion of themselves. We have an opinion of them. They're somewhere on the spectrum. What's really going on? Okay. And it's all really dependent on the point of view, right? Which perspective are we looking at? So here, we've got two options here for the self tribe. Now is when I'm going to tell the story. So the two times where I saw the tribe of self ignoring this is one, there was an issue in a Facebook group. There was a member who was speaking negatively about a woke protected group. Okay. So yes, this is a charged issue. You probably shouldn't openly speak negative about woke protected groups unless you want the tribe to have a negative opinion of you. And that's what happened. The tribe got a negative opinion. The person who was perceiving this person, the moderator, also got a negative opinion. So he got kicked from the group. And I automatically said, okay, yeah, I see the tribe. I see this person's opinion. Okay, great. I see that the tribe, is also kind of siding with this guy, and he's making he's making a good case, and he's swaying the tribe. So he's actually controlling somewhat the tribe opinion with their opinion. And then I was like, okay, but we're missing one. What's his perspective? What actually happened from his? And that's what I tried to see it as. And I started seeing, oh yeah, he wasn't actually going against a woke group. He was just saying he's tired of all of this wokeness, right? And it's like, okay, well, yeah, I mean, I get it. He did a dumb thing. He got the tribe against him. He got the moderator against him by doing this. He wasn't really thinking properly, but he didn't really do anything wrong. It's just we misperceived him. We didn't actually perceive him properly, right? But that's because he's not responsible for how he's being perceived. And so that's it's kind of his own fault. He should have been looking, how would the tribe perceive me if I did that, right? Yeah, you might have had great motives. You didn't mean that, yada, yada, yada. But this is my lesson in life too. People will not care about your perspective. They don't care. They care about how they feel and if they like you or not. But in the end, the tribe perspective is false. They're not actually seeing reality. Our perspective of this person is also false, and their perspective is also false. So what's reality? Who are they really? So we take reality. Yes, reality is projected onto a few different perceptions. So yeah, we already said reality is projected onto the tribe perception. Reality is projected onto a spectrum, right? We can see that spectrum is detecting reality and measuring reality. And then there's our perspective of this individual. And then there's their perspective of their own. So we spoke about all that. So really the question is, why are we even asking this? What are we even looking at? What are we even trying to judge, right? And so when we're looking at their perspective, we want to judge their decisions, right? Did they make a proper decision? Now, we can just assume. We don't even have to ask them. We don't even but maybe we should be asking them. Maybe we should be looking at what is their actual perspective. Because pretty much we're probably projecting. We're probably misperceiving them. This happens all the time. Unless you're assuming the best. If you're assuming the best, you're probably perceiving them properly. Sometimes people are really not really good people. And when you assume the best of them, you're not perceiving them correctly. But most of the time, if you assume the best of them, you are perceiving them correctly. But anyways, if you don't assume the best of them, if you assume the worst of them, you're probably also perceiving them incorrectly, right? And so it's really good to try to see what their perspective is. Now, eventually, our opinion of this person is going to be based on the information we take in, right? So the tribe is going to develop an opinion based on what the information the tribe gets, and maybe the influential people in the tribe can sway the tribe in a certain direction, right? And the spectrum is just looking at utility. What are they really, like, objectively? Are they nice? Are they mean? Are they useful, right? Now, when we're taking our perspective, the question is, what are we looking at? Are we looking self? Are we looking at our perception over time? Did they make it into our FI? Did they make it into our TI? Do we like the person? Are they smart from our perspective, right? Are we looking, okay, that's good. Are we looking at the tribe? So here's another story. I said I had two. So a friend of mine was having a big tribe tidal wave, and someone who was involved in the whole thing, they said, yeah, well, the tribe hates you. The tribe sees something bad, but I like you, so we're friends. And my friend was like, well, I mean, I saw you do tribe, I saw you do self, but did you really care about my opinion? Did you really care about my perspective? No, you didn't even ask my perspective. You said, I like you, and the tribe doesn't like you. So, but we're still friends because I like you. Done. Well, is there even a purpose to look at their perspective? Maybe not. I already like you. But maybe, yeah, maybe the person wants to be seen, wants their DI to be seen. Maybe the person wants the air cleared. Like, okay, just because you like me, we're still friends, but Why don't you just give me the benefit of the doubt? Why don't you just say, hey, yeah, I'm probably awesome, right? So that's kind of the way that works. So let's take two people, okay, who are on the spectrum, and we can say, or who existed, right? And we can say, okay, what is our opinion of them? How do we see them, right? Well, how does the tribe see them? First of all, what's the opinion of the tribe, and are we going to let that sway us? Okay, so as DIs, this usually does not sway us. Okay, as DEs, this kind of does sway you, and you kind of have to go against that if you ever want to. Well, I'm not giving advice, but so tribe's dumb. I don't care what they think. Okay, utility. Yes, each one had a different utility. Each one stood out very strongly on the spectrum. That's why they're instantly recognizable here. Okay, because they stood out on the spectrum, right? And they stood out for very different reasons. And we'll get onto the second part soon to talk about how the spectrum works for people, right? Now, our opinion of them, okay, so I have a personal opinion of them based on, I was following Michael Jackson since I was a kid, since before he got into all those trouble, right? And so I had a personal opinion before he came out, right? Now, Einstein, we all have a personal opinion of them wherever it came from, right? We decided maybe we'll take theirs, right? Our personal opinion is taking in whatever factor we decide, right? And so our personal opinion of them is one, and then there's their opinion of themselves. Now, is there a point to think about, okay, how did Einstein see himself? How did Einstein see his own decisions? Who even knows? We've got no idea. Is there even a point? The tribe loves him. We all love him. Individuals love him. Individuals are looking at how deep he is. We don't care about how he saw himself. Nobody's asking that, right? What about Michael Jackson? Well, because it's a bit controversial, so you're going to have a split. You're going to have the tribe opinion, and there's going to be different kinds of tribe opinions about him. Your spectrum of utility, that's undisputed, right? He does stand out on the spectrum. I've got my personal opinion on him, and then there's his explanation and the way he describes things. And yeah, not many individuals took the time to see how Michael Jackson describes things. But why are we even looking at his opinion? Why are we even looking at that? Well, because he didn't do a good enough job of monitoring the tribe opinion, right? So what are we trying to judge? So we're really looking at accountability in the end, right? That's what we're trying to judge, and outcomes. Okay, we can judge people objectively on who's accountable, whose fault is it for these decisions or for these things happening, right? The tribe hates somebody. They hate somebody. Whose fault is that? Is it the tribe's fault, or is it the person's fault for not monitoring what the tribe is thinking of them and for not trying to adjust themselves, right? Now, and this is the delusion, the person who says, oh yeah, the tribe hates me, but no one took the time to look at my perspective, right? No one. But yeah, with Einstein, no one took the time either. Okay. So really, when we're judging people's decisions, we're judging, when we actually do look at them, we're predictability. Okay. So like, could you have predicted this outcome? Okay. And are you accountable for it? Because if you could have predicted the outcome, you definitely are accountable, right? Did you take the necessary patience and care in your decision? Were you neglectful? Were you a little bit insane at the time, right? And so when you're looking at their perspective, there's lots of factors that come in to why they made a decision, okay? But in the end, my opinion of them, if it's correct to reality, reflects on me, right? Now, sometimes you'll never know. Maybe the tribe decides and cancels somebody in history. The tribe has canceled the person, right? So, I might never face the consequences of having a bad opinion. But what if the person was really secretly awesome and no one knows, right? So this reflects on me. This reflects on the tribe. So if the tribe really has a good opinion of somebody who is really bad, so that's, a shortcoming of the tribe. The tribe was wrong, right? The tribe loved Bill Cosby. Were they right? Or were they wrong, right? So that reflects on the tribe. And then utility is how someone is actually compared to people who are alive or people from the past, right? You're actually comparing the person objectively. But what you're not taking into account is the chance. Maybe they had chance to get where they are, right? Maybe they're not actually that awesome on the spectrum. They just got really lucky, right? And that can happen too. So really, the one thing that you'll see that we don't look at is their perspective. Because when people have it good, we don't look at their perspective. And when people have it bad, most people don't look at their perspective. Only the people who actually care or have a DI, or I don't know. It's rare that someone will actually look at their perspective, right? So let's turn this back around on us. Okay, so yeah, there's the way we see ourselves, right? We can hold a mirror to ourselves. And there's the way the tribe shows us ourselves, right? The tribe is holding a mirror to us, and there's information we can only get from the tribe, right? So that's two ways to perceive ourselves. So so who are we aligning ourselves to be, right? Do we want to align to be the best in our own eyes? Or do we want to align ourselves to be the best in the tribe's eyes, right? And these are two ways of looking at our identity, right? Because in the end, who I am is one thing, but how do I perceive myself is another, and how I am perceived is another. And yes, how you are perceived shines from your identity, right? It's and that's one way to access your identity. And how do you perceive yourself is another way to access your identity. How are you seeing yourself, right? And actually, not one of these is better than the other, right? And so what actually happens? So we have the introverted functions, right? Those are the ways that we perceive ourselves with the introverted functions. And we've got the extroverted functions. Those are the way that we are perceived by others, right? Now, if our introverted functions, okay, so let's say we're an alpha quadrant, so we've got the SI, TI, right? The introverted functions are perceiving ourselves and we're growing based on ourselves. We're getting better 1% every day, right? So this alpha quadrant, ST, is going to get better and better and better, right? It's not going to look at and compare itself to the world. It's going to compare itself to itself. Am I better than I was yesterday, right? And so, some people might not actually get to good heights on the ST in the alpha quadrant, and they might stay low on the spectrum, but at least they're trying. And some people might actually get to great heights, and so so when the TESE looks at them, they'll see them on the spectrum and say, "Hey, you're pretty high on the spectrum. Right?" And that's kind of what happened. So Einstein TISI, right? He was pretty high on the spectrum, so he built that ST really high, right? And so it kind of it shone through, right? His ST kind of shone through, and the tribe saw it, right? So yeah, it was both how Einstein perceived himself and how Einstein was perceived. But what about Einstein's vibe, right? Every time you see Einstein, he's waving, he's happy, people love him, right? So in some way, he also got the tribe's perspective of him. But how is the tribe perceiving you based on the spectrum, the NF spectrum? Because you can't develop it to yourself. You can't compare yourself to it. You can't grow every day. The only way you can grow is by looking at the mirror that the tribe is holding to you. And if you look at the mirror that the tribe is holding to you, and you try to get 1% better on that tribe, on that line, and try to align yourself to the tribe, you'll get better and better in this, right? And so the tribe's perception, you will be building for the alpha quadrant, you'll be building something that looks like NIFI, right? You'll be increasing on this NF spectrum, right? And that's kind of the piece that's missing. So you need both. And this is why high play is really always polling a tribe, always trying to learn about itself from the tribe, because it's trying to see this part of its identity. Okay. And then the self is always looking at itself, talking about itself, trying to shine self out, because it's only looking at this side of its identity, right? And really who we are is both of these aspects, right? And so when we grow and when we're trying to align ourselves, we kind of have to pick. Am I going to go more on how I am perceived? Am I going to try to grow and align myself to that? And will that come at the cost of how I perceive myself, right? Am I going to go for status, or am I going to go for character? Now, when this is turned around, you have the tribe, right? The tribe, how the tribe sees the person, right? This is a part of their identity. The spectrum, how they fit in on the spectrum. And everything is going to fit on the spectrum in some way. You're going to have theirs, right? This is their opinion of us, right? Individuals that are out there, how they see us. And the question is, are they going to see us like the tribe, right? Or are they going to be close friends and try to get close to us and see how we perceive ourselves, right? Because that's also a part of us. And someone who is our friend is going to want to see how we perceive ourselves, because that's the identity that we cling to. That's who we see ourselves, right? And so that's how we are perceived. And then there's how we perceive ourselves, right? And so all of this forms part of our identity, how we're perceived. And this is how we perceive ourselves. And how we perceive ourselves can bleed through. If enough individuals see how we perceive ourselves, we can shine and bleed through, especially if we are awesome and amazing. And it could actually bleed through and increase and show up on the tribe spectrum and make the tribe have a good opinion of us, right? So anyway, those are the mechanics. Like I said, there's no advice. I'm really sorry. But take it and build with it. I'm going to keep building on this. Like and subscribe. And again, if you really want to see advice, check out that cognitive balance series. Link is in the description. Have a good one, everybody. Peace.